Hello, super expanders. Welcome back. So excited to be here chatting with you today. And I have a very special guest, such a special guest. Let me introduce you to Tyler Ranalla. He is, you guys, you're in such a treat. Just his energy is so infectious. His heart is so pure. And just he brings so much value to every interaction, so much value to every conversation. So let me introduce you to Tyler.
Super grateful to be here.
So grateful to have you here. We're about to have such a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So I love to kick these off with just like a little question. It's really not little. It's actually a pretty big question. Yeah, and I think it's a question that we ask ourselves, all of us often, and it's like who am I? So who, like, at your core, at your essence, who is Tyler?
Yeah, it's such a good and important question. And I think I am happy to know that I don't have to have the answer because that's something that always unfolds. And I think who we are continues to change as our life changes and we continue to expand as who we are. But I do think, as a father and someone with soon to be 3 kids here any day, that we do come into this world with gifts and personalities. And it's shocking to me to watch my kids grow and see that it's like there are things about them that are purely them. And I think as we expand in life, but we also so you have to cut it out. How do I say this? There's this juxtaposition as we go through life where we're expanding, but we're also removing the things that are not us. Like when I did photography for a long time. And one of the things that I was always conscious of when photographing weddings was like waiting for a moment when somebody's masks were gone. So like on a wedding day, you have all the different parts of your life in one place, and you're kind of like putting on different masks to and all of you the different masks that you've had your entire life, like on and off. And it takes a lot of energy, and like you see that with their friends or with their family or the kids, and they're just getting to share all the different pieces of them throughout the whole day. And then there's always these like really specific moments that only happen a few times where like all of that fades and like the person is just like purely them. And I know like at that moment, if they have kids, their grandkids, like the people who know them will be able to look at that photo of them in their youth and like fully recognize who that person is. So I think there's this uncovering. And as I continue to uncover who I am, the things that are really clear to me are that I am a creative and that my heart was just made for love. And the ways that expands are kind of to be determined, but that's a bit of who I am at my core.
Ah, that explanation was so good, and I feel like you do know who you are, because I that's something I very much, from the moment that I met you, could see from you or felt from you, is that just this, you're such a big, kind heart, and that you lead from a place of love consistently and constantly, and the creative aspect. So the fact that you are so clear on that is such a big thing. So, in leading from a place of love, in being a creator, how are you taking the essence of who you are, your talents and gifts, and bringing that forth in the world today, now?
So currently, I'm doing I'm supporting people and kind of uncovering who they are as a coach, as a legacy coach, and also as a business strategist. And but I know that will continue to unfold, and it's not really meant for me to know how that will unfold, but just logistically, that's how I do that in a professional setting, and then in my personal life, I am a husband. I almost said wife. But I am a husband and a father of two, and one baby who's due here any day. It could actually be today. It looks like it might be. So
You could be called right in the middle of recording, and
it's
we would have to hit the timeout button and resume at another time.
exactly. So
Oh
we'll
my
see.
gosh, it's exciting times. We are literally, guys, we are literally sitting on the edge, waiting for baby Ranalla to arrive in the
Yeah.
world any
Yeah.
moment now. So this is exciting times.
Yeah. It
This,
really is.
something that you just said, I absolutely love. So you are in a process of constantly involving and uncovering yourself, but that's what you are coaching people on. And what I find so much, and is in my journey of being a coach, of being a teacher, from fitness to business to mindset, all of it, so often we end up teaching the thing, coaching the thing that we actually need to learn, or
Absolutely.
we are learning, because there is such a powerful thing to be like in the thick of something, but then also teaching it, sharing it at the same time. So I feel like what I heard you really say is you are actually living in your true purpose. You're living in your true talents and your true gifts in this very moment, which means that you're, I don't know, light years ahead of so many people in this
Yeah.
world, because so many people in this world are searching for their talents and gifts. They can't see the greatness that is right there that everyone else sees. So the fact that you're so tapped into that, I find to be amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's definitely been like, it's, as I was saying, like, who I am, I was thinking about all of the times that I wasn't that, and I wasn't that person, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I've had this clarity for a long time and this is who I am. And every moment, like, there was so many times when there were things in the way of me really being me and being led by, um, I love something Jim Carrey says, that like we either make decisions from fear or love. And there were so many times in my life when I wasn't coming from that place of love. I was coming from that place of fear, and I wasn't able to be me. And it was that contrast that gave me the commitment to do my very best, like kind of for the rest of my life, to leave that legacy of kindness and all of that.
Uh, well, I think, well, I more than think I know, we have to have that duality. We have to have that
Mm-hmm.
polarity to
Yeah.
understand and fully comprehend, right? So you can't know happiness unless you know sadness. You can't really understand full magnitude of love if you haven't experienced the darker side of that, if you haven't experienced the lack of love, or for yourself, for others, if you haven't experienced some kinds of fears or doubts, you can't really fully stand in your power and confidence. So we have to acknowledge those places and spaces where that has been our experience.
Exactly. And that's why you have to, like, it can be like, it's first, yeah, to expand on that, it's like you can't know light without knowing darkness. And so the way to better know light and your own light is to actually look into the darkness. And it's like terrifying, but it's so important, because that's the thing that's going to help you recognize the light. Um, yeah, it's so huge and important to do. And that's, I think, you don't have to do that alone. You can always have people that are there for you, to even call to you, um, on your journey, and know that you're not alone in
Yeah.
that.
So I want to talk a little bit about those times when
Mhm.
you were in the polarity, in a not feeling and guided by a place of love, or when you were feeling like you were essentially driving in a place of
Yeah.
fear. What, like, what did that feel like? What were those experiences? How did you know? And like, what was the pivotal piece for you that, I don't know, that changed the game? What was the tipping point?
Yeah, such a good question. It's like there's so much to share with this, and it's like I knew it the whole time, but I had this really strong driver that was really about validation. Like the biggest block for me of being me, being truly me, was of needing other people's approval. And it was in that process of looking for validation, like that became my block, because I even that validation, it comes from like a need, in a way, not fully, but like it's like in your mind. And I thought all of the answers, the things I should do were in my mind, but I was just disconnected from really just loving myself, and disconnected from my heart and like listening to my heart. And so I had to ask the question, like, whose validation am I seeking? And but I would have never asked that question if I didn't get to my tipping point. And my tipping point was that I ended up in the hospital for 12 days. And I was there after all the diagnosis. They said I had gastritis, but I was just in some of the worst pain of my life. I couldn't drink water. I was like surviving on IV fluids for a while. And it was one of my favorite teachers is a guy named Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he always talks about how like life speaks to you. And it usually starts as a whisper. And the longer we don't listen to it, it kind of gets louder and louder. And eventually you get tired of being hit by the cosmic 2x4 and you say, okay, fine, like I'll change. And like that was my tipping point. My breaking point was in the hospital, my daughter having to come and see me in the hospital, not having answers. And then at the end of it all, the doctor saying, I think you are just stressed. Like I have no other answer for you. And
Uh,
that from that point, that darkness and that pain, knowing I didn't want to feel that again, led me into that personal development journey, which then led me to that question of whose validation was I seeking. And then I got to start getting rid of that and start looking for external love and learning how to just love myself first.
I feel like there's got to be so many people listening that so resonate with that whole experience. I feel like I've had so many conversations with other people who have had manifestations that showed up as like physical dis-ease, like burnout, pain, sickness in their body from not listening to those external signs, to pursuing the shoulds and either working too many hours or fueling their body in ways that were not really healthy based on just
Mm-hmm.
external factors. So that's, thank goodness that you learned that lesson. Thank goodness that you healed, and now you're sharing that power with other people. So which actually, I'd love to learn about what a legacy coach, like how like what does a legacy coach do? How do you coach to create legacy? How do you bring those experiences that you've had and share that with others?
Yeah. So legacy. This is really interesting to me. Uh, Something that I have always considered since I was very young, was the fact that I will not be here forever. Um, and I had this assumption that everybody thought about this, but I had night terrors when I was like 10, and where like every night I would have some dream that somebody I knew, or myself would die, and I would wake up kind of in like a panic attack. And it just at a very young age, I was like facing like my mortality. Um, and then when I was 16, we found out my mom had a brain tumor. And then facing the potential of my mom not being here anymore was just another experience of just really looking and contemplating death, and that thing that used to feel really dark and looking at is now something that I like draw like my greatest power and clarity from. Now when I if I have questions or I'm unsure of things, now I can turn to, well, like, what if this was my last day? What if this was my last year? What things right now that I think are important, I would realize aren't important at all? Like, and what things would I be grateful for? Like, it's one of my, this is weird, but it's one of my favorite exercises. Is like, okay, if this was my last day, what is a moment or something that I would just be mesmerized with that I usually like gloss by? Right. Like even just like tasting water and like sitting in that and being like, wow, if this was my last day, this would be, and I knew it, like this would be an amazing experience I would never want to, take for granted. So it's just something about considering mortality that brings me like a ton of clarity, courage, and gratitude. And I was talking with a group of other coaches about this, and the feedback from them was like, I don't think about that. And I was like, what? Really? I thought like all of us thought about it. And they're like, nope. And one of them was in her 50s. She's like, I don't think about that. My husband's in his 60s and he's just maybe now starting to think about it. And I started to see from other people telling me like maybe this perspective is a part of my gift. And that person on the call was like, well, I think then you're a legacy coach. Like, she's the one who gave this to me. And been going with it, and it's been pretty incredible. So but to answer the question about what is legacy, I'm going through this boot camp right now called the Legacy Boot Camp with people. In the very beginning, I just asked people like, what is your one word associated with legacy? And it was like everyone's responses that like made me be able to answer this right now. Like, I'm pulling it from their answers to this. It's the thing that like self perpetuates after you're gone and because you were here. It like ripples, and like we'll never be able to track it fully. And but if you think about, every moment is an opportunity to create some positive impact in this world. You realize how much of an opportunity you have to make things about others and to make things about the collective. So I just support people with getting really in touch with that kind of on a daily basis, to cultivate gratitude and to get really in touch, with their heart.
That's really powerful. I feel like a lot of things through that actually will change the world. The more people start to live from the desire to create and build a legacy. So a few things. I have like so much to say here. So much to say. One, what made me think of when you're talking about legacy coach and like how do you create a legacy? My first thought, and then maybe this is like my entrepreneurial mind, is by being a legacy coach and building your legacy, you have to decide before the end of your life, and then you have to reverse engineer it to create it. So you actually have to get in touch with your talents and gifts. You have to get really in touch with your core values, and then decide to every single day choose from that place. To choose from that place, every decision that you make, you get to choose from that place. And the really beautiful thing that when you just started talking about that was how, by considering your own mortality on a daily basis, you actually are completely free to live your life, to actually live it and not allow it to pass you by.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. So powerful. So you're not alone. So I have had many like thoughts about these sorts of things, and I just recently went through a breath work session that was literally contemplating the last 20 minutes of your life, so that you could tap into that and bring that forth every single day, so that you really can be super intentional and meaningful. Because when you start to live from that place, like all these things that we think about and we worry about, like it's just not even, it would cause you no stress. It would cause you
Yeah.
no care if you actually were sitting there thinking and you're like stuck in traffic and you're so pissed off about being stuck in traffic and being late to the meeting. And you're like, at the end of my life, in the last 20 minutes of my life, is this particular moment in time actually going to matter? But I could be
Right.
remembered for flicking the guy off next to me. Like that guy might remember me because I might ruin his day. Like you're remembered for your
And
kindness and
what's
the
the
way that
ripple
you
effect
behave
of
and you
that?
respond, right? So
Yeah.
being late to a meeting or sitting in traffic or what, all of those things, that's not going to be remembered. But if you're a bad person or your reaction to something makes someone else feel bad, that actually makes this indelible mark on someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It like, it is a little intense and a hard pill to swallow. Like, um, how much every moment we have is an opportunity to create positivity or not, in those interactions with others. And even like to your point about being stuck in traffic, like if this was the last 20 minutes, like what about that moment in traffic would you want to soak up? Like what would you see that we didn't see before? Like maybe you're into physics and you think about the friction of the tire on the road and just like the miracle of it, or you look at the other people and you notice all the people on the road, and it's a different place to come from. And it's this weird mix of connection to others, um, but also a drawback to like the importance of just enjoying the journey, and that it's just about just enjoying what's in front of you. And it's scary for a lot of people because maybe what's been rooted in their drive, like, so many people talk about this, but that your focus on the future will never be satisfied.
Mhm.
Right? Like you keep moving forward and you keep moving forward and thinking this next thing is going to make you happy or whatever it is, and looking for more money or what. I mean, this endless kinds of things that we seek, but it's in that seeking that we're already missing the opportunity to really live. And
Uh,
if we let it go, it's so unfamiliar. You're like, well, then what? Like, am I going to just give up on everything and just go live on a beach and not care about anybody? And it's so scary to lean into it and to hear other people, because this isn't the first time someone's heard this. It's just like, when you let that go, something else will come in place that's 10, 100 times stronger.
yes. And so I think that there is a massive amount of trust that has to be
Yes.
adopted because in the not seeking the future, then there is, I think, a fear of taking your foot off the gas pedal. Are you going to just like, who cares about paying my bills? All of those things, which is not going to happen. Right. But we have this fear of letting go of control and stepping into,
Mm.
but that's, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you basically, I feel like, so in being a legacy coach and living and driving from that place, really the, I mean, it's like a freedom coach, right? It's actually, which is something that we're all, I think, all seeking, right? Is freedom, freedom of mind, freedom in our finances, freedom to just show up and be ourselves. And it's
Yeah.
really in living as you're creating a legacy in each moment of your life. If you can operate from that place, it's actually, you've achieved freedom in each moment after moment. And by stitching those moments together, we truly are building an actual legacy, one that will extend out beyond our lives forever because of the ripple effect that's created. But what the, I think, super unique thing is that the vast majority of people are not doing that. So you will truly shine because so many people are not living that way. So it becomes an extraordinary life just by doing that, one that people will want to emulate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird thing. It's so hard to wrap like any of our minds around, because even as we're talking, there's like the duality of like, okay, just live in the moment and realize you're free right now. You don't have to, nowhere else. Like Nelson Mandela found freedom in prison, right? Like, and it's finding that freedom and also having some kind of forward momentum and look to that legacy. But it's like, if we do look, it's, if we look too far, then we're in like the future again. And we're out of like what things are happening right now. So it's this really weird balance that I think
Yeah.
just takes time and play and curiosity. And it's like a never ending unfolding.
I didn't know we were going so deep today, but I'm here for it.
Me
I'm here
either.
for it. So all of this really has my wheels turning because you are wise way beyond your years here on this planet. So I'm very, very curious to know who has been a super expander in your life. I mean, the way that you're living and coaching and being right now, you're already a super expander for so many, but nobody got to be as in the space and place that you are without someone else having influenced, impacted, and expanded you. So I'd really love to know who the super expanders in your world have been.
Yeah, it's I'm kind of sifting through the different mentors and people that have come into my life. Um, and my mind went straight away to like my business mentors or the mentors in my adulthood. But I realized as I was thinking about it that none of those would have mattered without the very first person who was my uncle. And um, and it wasn't that he called me or challenged me to be better, or to improve or anything. He just, what he told me all the time um, was this feeling of just like, you are magnificent and like you are enough. And like he was the person that like I think believed in me more than anybody else in my life. And it gave that foundation for me that I think without that, the other mentors that have come into my life, it wouldn't have been as impactful.
Your uncle sounds like a really special guy. So
Yeah.
how did he like really impart that on you?
It it was so simple. It was just words, right? Like words have magic, good and bad. And it wasn't something about uh the expansion he created in his own life or anything. It was just purely like, I know you are going to do amazing things, is what he would say. It's just that simple.
Wow. I'm sure. So I can even feel the feeling when you say it though, because words can be said, but there's a lot of energy and emotion
Mm-hmm.
that gets
Yeah.
infused in them. And so words are just words without that kind of power behind them. And I can even, as I'm sitting here looking at you saying that, I can feel how he like gave that to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I had to try and find a word to put with it, in a way, I think the words behind it was just that I love you.
Oh.
Like just as you.
So have you told your uncle that he was such a super expander for you? Does he know this?
Now I'm going to share this with him as soon as we're done.
Oh my gosh. I always feel like it's an interesting conversation because sometimes these things come up and that I think actually is a big part of our legacy too, is being able to communicate powerfully and without regrets. And I'm sure that your uncle would be blown away to know that he has been a super expander, especially because he's consistently saw the greatness in you.
Yeah, and that awareness only came really recently. Um, I was hit with the question of like, when was a time in your life that you felt completely loved? And so anyone listening, they can ask themselves that and sit with that and journal or meditate or whatever way of just, when was a time that you felt completely loved? Um, and to me, that's going to be the first mentor.
Ah, sounds like a little timeline therapy. You might have been going through a little NLP
Right.
based conversation when they asked you that. That's so powerful. So I can't wait to kind of hear the follow up on you sharing that with your uncle and what sort of magic comes from that. Which brings me then to really think. So if we were to fast forward out a year from now, let's just imagine we're sitting on the podcast again, which we will be, and talking about what the year passed and the expansion that's happened. What is the North Star guiding you? Like, how do you want to feel 365 days from now? What's the feeling you're not chasing that you want to embody and
I
that you really
want
want to start
to,
embodying now?
yeah, I want to embody the feeling that my uncle gave me and give that to as many people as I possibly can.
Mm, that is powerful. So how will you know? Like what's the proof that you're doing it, that you're living it, that you have it?
Mm. It's I think what will happen is there will be times when, like, it took me, over a decade to recognize that gift that was given to me. So I don't know if I will be able to really see that that is happening. But I guess that's another version of legacy. Like, we don't see the ripples. So I think that the avenue or the way that I will do that is continue to get deeper and deeper just in touch with my heart. And when I look at others, right, like see the child self and see that if people could, if when people do come to the place of just 100% I love me exactly for me, unconditionally, with no conditions, is what that means. No conditions. Um, from that place, the ripples would be, yeah, incredible. That would be a legacy to me.
So good. I feel that for you.
Yeah.
So I'm completely about helping people
Mm-hmm.
collapse time because I think that is something that super expanders
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I really believe that we can take our own past experiences and knowledge and wisdom to bring that forth is to kind of go back. If you could give your younger self one juicy nugget of gold advice, what would you tell your younger self?
It's so funny. I'm starting to feel like a one-trick pony here. Like, um, yeah, I would have just told myself, you don't have to do or be anything to deserve love.
Yeah, so good. You're worthy because you are.
Exactly.
Isn't that
Exactly.
the truth? I think if we could all just know that and get that we are at the moment we are born, we are worthy and nothing has changed. I love that. So such a powerful piece of advice. So I hope that's landing. I hope people are hearing it. I hope that you saying that they like felt it to their
Yeah.
core, which also means that your your gifts and talents of helping people build a legacy are they're in motion. That piece of advice truly sums up exactly who, we're kind of full circle moment from where we started. That's like who you are at your essence.
Yeah. I feel like to go off of like giving people how to shorten this, right? Like what we're talking about with this self-love is in one essence the end point and like ultimate freedom, but also is a foundation, right, of from that place of deep love, then being able to expand that. And so let's how about could we make up an exercise
Oh yeah,
for
yeah, let's
people
do
to
it.
do?
Wow. Okay, I'm game. Let's we can do anything we want. This
Dude,
is this is the Super Expander podcast. Dang it.
okay, all right. Let's do this. All right. Should we maybe since this is a podcast stuff, we can give people like just some questions or just exercise or things to do to like get deeply in touch with self-love. And then what? Right? Like
Yeah.
what would be the question? Like if you fully loved yourself, what would you do? What's the question?
It's almost a okay, so I see where you're going with this. It's kind of like the dream bigger. Wouldn't it be
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
if so if I fully love myself, wouldn't it be crazy if I fully love myself, then I do X? It
Mm,
wouldn't it be crazy if I fully loved myself? How would I show up in the world? What if I fully loved myself? What what couldn't I achieve? Right? Like what limits would there be? Is this? I think that's where you were
yeah,
going with this, right?
yeah, exactly. And the other thing that's coming up for me is um, you mentioned trust earlier. And trust for some people, it will be for themselves, and for others will be that there is something outside of you. And so for those people, maybe another question to ask is, if I am fully loved unconditionally, then what? Right? Like if it's not just you, but if there's some other thing out there that just loves you as you and put you here, in what ways will they support you, or in what ways can you trust that support? Because when we go like, then what? Then it's the fears of like, oh, what if this great thing? Well, what if this bad thing happens? And that's where that trust is so important, right?
I feel like we could just go down a whole
We
thing of
really
this
could, we really could.
because then that becomes this external trust. But
Mm-hmm.
this is where I have to chime in and remind you that external thing, the universe, God, source, which is I think I
Mm-hmm.
believe what you're referring to,
Mm-hmm.
is inside of you.
Exactly.
So that and which becomes the practice of tapping into your intuition, which is the
Mm-hmm.
representation, the direct dial-up to that. So the
Yeah.
only real true trust that is needed is that within yourself, that within like and learning to tap in and trust that inner knowing, that inner connection.
Yes.
Because if we can do that, that truly is the ultimate. It's the ultimate trust. There's no, the external just then begins to drop away and not exist. I mean, obviously our external world exists, but the need is to tap in and trust within.
And what a symbol for super expansion, right? Of it's not just your expansion, it's recognizing the massiveness that you already are and are connected to. So it's like another uncovering of just like who you are, and like you are everything.
Well, absolutely. And I think, and that which can sound very selfish, but it actually, when you can connect and see that, is the moment when you can acknowledge it in every person that you come in contact with, which then breeds forgiveness and compassion and more love.
Yeah. See you and them.
Boom. I think we just solved the problems of the world. Our work is
I
done
love it.
here, Tyler.
All right. I'm going off to a mountain.
Who knew? I had no idea this is like where our conversation was going to go. We just literally.
I love it. I love it.
What a pleasure. What a fun conversation. These are the conversations that truly light me up, that I think truly are conversations that are shifting the dynamics for every person that actually has the opportunity to listen, to hear, to expand. And if it shifts even just a small piece inside of someone, I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I do want to, take a moment to acknowledge you and what you are doing, and putting together this container for people to come into, more beauty through their expansion, and more everything, more of every single aspect of life, and recognizing that abundance, and supporting them. And that will have a ripple effect that is self-sustaining, that you could never track. And I just want to acknowledge you for taking the courage to step into that, for you and for me and for everybody who tunes in, and everybody that those people are connected to.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry over here. I'm blushing. It started out as, this little seed of desire, and finally it's here, it's alive, and I am loving it. So thank you. I receive that. Something
Awesome.
I'm working on, the receiving. So thank you. I receive that.
Good. It is hard sometimes.
Oh my gosh, it is. It is. Oh my gosh. Then you're like, no, but don't stop. Keep going.
Right.
I'm practicing on receiving. Can you help me practice some more? No.
Yeah. That is hilarious. Well, to continue it, then, you have made a huge impact in my life and my expansion and my connection to intuition. And you have a true gift in the way that you show up. And you have this like gentleness and this presence and care that is truly unique and special. And so I'm truly grateful to be here with this conversation with you.
Seriously, so much gratitude for you, for the words that you just shared, for the knowledge you brought to or you bring to the world, and like all of the magic you just shared within the last 50 minutes of us talking. I know this conversation is going to be one that we continue on another episode, because I can feel it. We can't give all those secrets away yet. It might blow people's minds.
Right? Oh, I don't know. If it were my last day, I'd want to give them away. I'll be honest.
So I know that you have some really, really big things to attend to today. So we'll have to continue this conversation. We'll have to follow back up and hear about the new bundle of joy, the new miracle coming into the world. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here, to chat, to share your talents, your gifts, your wisdom, all of it. I appreciate you.
It's my honor. Thank you.
I will. Our next guest will catch you on the next episode. I have to say, guys, I am terrible at wrapping this up, and I'm going to work on the close. So I'm going to see you on the next episode.